Sidibelo, Bakhatlabethu Kyalimisa Musong Ono. Good morning to you all, Kgafela, and fellow citizens of South Africa. In today's presentation, which is part of the monthly updates that I promised to give you, I'm going to introduce to you a special person in the works of Bakhatla. He's standing next to me here. His name is Mr. Alan Few. He's a forensic investigator who knows Bakhatla Farms and what's going on in Bakhatla Farms more than any one of us, the owners, know. He knows it from the perspective of a forensic investigator. And he's been on the matter of Bakhatla Farms for many years. So from today onwards, Mr. Few is going to be explaining to you the status of Bakhatla Farms, the history, and what's going on in them in the past several years, so that all of you have full knowledge from a professional perspective of what you own, Bakhatla, and what's going on in the property that you own. I've always insisted in all my presentations to you concerning Bakhatla problems that we, Bakhatla, are the owners of the farms where our villages are located. We are the owners, we own those farms, and we have the same ownership rights as any other citizen of South Africa who owns a farm. That's how it is. And how that ownership has been violated over the years, you will learn about it from Mr. Alan Few's presentations. Today is only the beginning of the many other videos that he shall be doing on our behalf upon our instructions from the royal family of Kgafela and the king himself, myself. I present to you Mr. Alan Few. He's here. After I have made my monthly speech to you, he will walk in here and give you the presentation that he has to give you today. Behind us is a map of Pilanesberg, our farms that are located in Pilanesberg. It's only a fraction of the information that he has in the many volumes of maps that he has concerning all Bakhatla farms. He will explain it to you with reference to the map and other documents that he has. Mr. Alan Few will speak to you shortly after I have delivered my speech. Thank you, sir. As I promised you, Bakhatla, every month for the next few months, I'll stand in this platform and speak to you to give you updates about where we stand in regard to the challenges we face. The challenges we face being the grave injustices that are happening to Bakhatla in violation of our property rights, violation of our human rights of various categories, and violation ultimately of our dignity. We'll speak about that continuously until those violations end. And in the course of our presentations every month, we'll be introducing to you, as we have introduced today, one professional after another who will tell our story from a professional perspective, so that all of you see that we don't speak rhetoric or rumor alone, but we speak fact, which fact has got to be resolved by justice. So the update of today is the following. Let's start where we left. Where we left, me indicating to you that we are under siege by mafia groups who are controlling the Northwest, and what we intend to do and are doing about it. These mafia groups, if I may recap, I enumerated them as Murule Mafia, Klerksdorp mafia, and Lituli House mafia. There's no governance in Northwest, Bakatla. There's no government in Northwest. All our presentations will be prefaced by an emphasis on that fact of reality that all of you must come to terms with. There is no government, there's no governance in the Northwest province. What we see as a semblance of governance or government is nothing more than a gang of criminals who have taken over and hijacked the Freedom Charter. There's no government in Northwest. And anybody who still believes that there is a government in Northwest is suffering the worst delusions of grandiose. So who's controlling Northwest? Wakab. Northwest is being controlled by Murule Mafia, foremost at the center of it all. And that's what our challenge is, because Murule Mafia, we are talking about people who are our distant relatives, people who occupied positions of authority on account of us, the Kgafela royal family. So we take full responsibility for that state of affairs. Murule Mafia is John Molefe Pilane. That is the mafia boss. He's got a lieutenant. His name is Kagiso Bana Pilane. That is his nephew. And both of them are our distant relatives. John Pilane, as most of you know, Bakatla, was appointed to the seat of Kgosi by my father, the late Kgosi II, in 1996. For him to be caretaker of the tribe in South Africa, in terms of Bakatla custom, where the king sitting in Botswana rules the tribe in South Africa via a representative. It's a custom that has been for more than 200 years since Bakatla left the Pilanesberg area on account of Paul Kruger's persecution. So Jean Piana was appointed in 1996. We were all there at the ceremony of his appointment. And since then, he's been part of the family. He's been part of our family. My father treated him like his own son. He participated in almost every ceremony of the family. Our graduations, he was there. Our wedding ceremonies, he was there. My coronation, he was there. You see him in the pictures. He even made a speech there. Initiation schools that we raised post 2008, he was there. You see him in the pictures. And whilst I was a student, he was like a brother. My visit to Murule, I spent time at his house. He had a separate house in his yard at Lukutu, which he set aside for our accommodation when we visit South Africa. We sat down with him over drinks late into the night. He was a brother. We called him Brian Eggs, truly. Kagiso too, he's younger than me. He used to go to Muchudi, Kagiso Pilane. He participated under my initiation schools. We taught him how to ride horses in Muchudi. He was part of the family, a true brother. But look what money does to humanity. Just for a little comfort of life, the ability to drive a Range Rover, the opportunity to wear a Rolex watch, the opportunity to appear above your fellow humans in authority. Just those little opportunities of life presented by money makes a man a traitor of his own people. Makes a man betray destiny makes a man betray his own family, the family that elevated him to that very position he shines in, just for a little morsel in the mouth, a little stock sweets, a little lollipop to suck upon, makes a man betray his own family. He betrays those who have appointed him to the very seat that he shines upon. That's the kind of people that we are dealing with today. Our own relatives who have turned our entire tribe upside down in misery because of their betrayal, because of their mafia style of living with others. When we say Nyala Pilane and Kgolo Pilane are mafia, we have evidence which fits that love of how mafia operates. We have more than 5 forensic investigation reports going back to 2012. All of them pointing to one fact, that John Molefe Pilane and Kgolo Pilane are stealing millions and millions and billions and billions from Kgafela via various companies that they have set up to steal from the tribe, to steal from their own people, whilst impoverishing their own people. Yes, we have forensic reports. We have judgments of court, many judgments of court, which point towards the same conclusion, that John Pilane and Kgolo Pilane are stealing millions and millions and billions and billions from Kgafela. So this is not fiction. It's not mere allegations, as some of the police officers have dismissed our complaints. They are bribed in order to look the other way. And when we press them to look the right way, they say we speak mere allegations. It's not mere allegations, it's forensic after forensic reports. And we even went through a whole commission of inquiry report to validate all these claims. And the commission did validate all these claims. So when we say that mafia, we speak the truth. Because what mafia does is that apart from stealing and destroying their own people, they corrupt the whole system of governance in the province, as John Pilane, has corrupted the entire system of Northwest. Let me give you an example, my brothers. Imagine it this way. It's an allegory. There's a man who's standing tall, wearing very long trousers. And he appears to be a giant because he's standing tall. But he's standing tall because he's standing on stilts, which you do not see. And he's wearing long trousers with visible deep pockets which match his height. So there's the front pockets, 2 front pockets, 2 back pockets, and another pocket inside, which in Setswana we call Senana pocket. It's the pubic pocket, the one that sits inside the trousers. In Setswana we call it Senana pocket. So he has the whole government structure in all these 5 pockets. In the Senana pocket, the one that is hidden inside, he has the entire judiciary of Mafikeng High Court. He has the judiciary of Mafikeng High Court. And when I mean the judiciary, I not mean every judge, because there are some judges who are not corrupt, and some judges are corrupt. But he has the senior judges of Mafikeng High Court in his Senana pocket for quite some time now. Let me just give you a few examples of what I'm talking about, and then you can connect the dots for yourself to see whether Kgosi Kgafela II is speaking the truth, at least on circumstantial evidence. Let me give you an example 1. On the 8th of June, 2008, John Pilane was convicted at Kgasi Magistrates Court The Kgasi Magistrates Court convicted him of various commercial crimes of fraud, theft, corruption, stealing from Bakatla and stealing from the land bank. The complainants then were a group of Bakatla men led by the late Rematapeng Pilane. He passed away a couple of years ago whilst the commission was ongoing. Rematapeng's presentation to the Baloyi Commission centered around this conviction of 208 and what happened as a consequence thereof. Bakatla were complaining ever since John Pilane was installed as Kgosi in 1996. Bakatla even complaining that this man is stealing from them. They built their case until the prosecution took place and a conviction was secured in June 2008. The Magistrates Court judgment is a well-reasoned judgment. Anyone trained in law, even if you are not trained in law, but you have a fair mind of assessment, you will see that the magistrate did his work properly and convicted John Pilane appropriately. 208. So John Pilane appealed to the High Court, and there at the High Court, he had his friends, the senior judges, work injustice against Bakatla. Hard-earned justice of a prosecution at the Magistrates Court built over many years was thrown out by a judgment of a senior judge at Mafikeng High Court in 2009. So Bakatla convicted Pilane at the Magistrates Court, and the High Court judge, his friends, the senior judges set him free on a very, very flimsy judgment of the High Court. Now, another thing that happened around that time, 2009, something interesting happened which all Bakatla know about, is that there was a big party at Mafikeng for the inauguration of a senior judge. At this big party, John Molefe Pilane was guest speaker at this party. So we see on one hand, John Molefe Pilane is a guest speaker at a party of a senior judge at Mafikeng High Court. And on the other hand, we see a senior judge of the Mafikeng High Court releasing John Pilane from conviction on flimsy grounds around the same time. You connect the dots because the party did take place and Bakatla knew about it. You ask yourself, where does John Pilane, somebody who is a university dropout, he has no degree. His career, before he was appointed Kgosi, he was a taxi owner or taxi driver, selling vegetables from his father's shop. Where does somebody of that characteristic meet with a judge? Where does he meet with the judge for the judge to see him qualified to be guest speaker at the judge's inauguration party? I leave that to your own speculation, and you connect the dots of circumstantial evidence of what was going on around that time. But it's fact, the party did take place. It is fact that he was guest speaker at that party. It is fact that around that time, a senior judge of Mafikeng High Court released him from conviction. So when we say that the man has Mafikeng High Court senior judges in his Sinana pocket, we tell the truth. We speak the truth. Bakatla struggled to gain justice at the Magistrates Court. Senior judge at the High Court cast all that away. Bakatla struggled at Baloyi Commission of Inquiry to get justice. Because the same High Court of Mafikeng said that we should go to a commission to resolve our issues. We go to the commission, we resolve those issues at commission, a commission headed by eminent men and women of the law. A commission participated by eminent men and women of the law. The evidence leaders of that commission, imagine, Advocate Makole, the commissioners, Advocate Baloi, the late Judge Maluleke, and the participants of that commission, Senior Counsel Nukaitobi, and a whole organization, Lamosa, participating at that commission. And a senior judge at Mafikeng High Court arranges that another judge throws all that out by setting aside the commission so that Pilane goes free. You make the connection for yourself. But these are examples that every Mokatla will always have in their mind when they think about Mafikeng High Court and the injustice which Bakata get at Mafikeng High Court. Bakata have many orders interdicting John Molefe Pilane from doing what he's doing to Bakata. There are many interdicts. We name them in our presentations, other Bakata name them in their presentations, but none of those interdicts are enforceable. The orders and judgments of Mafikeng High Court, in as far as concerns Kgafela, are unenforceable. They have not been enforced to this date because the structure of the High Court does not enforce them, because the Premier's office does not enforce them, because the police do not enforce them. The entire law enforcement machinery does not enforce judgments made in favor of Bakata. Because John Molefe Pilane has the Mafikeng High Court senior judges in his Senana pocket. Let's move a little bit and go to the front pockets. We spoke about these 5 pockets. In the right front pocket, John Pilane has there the entire Premier's office and Kokta. They are in his right front pocket. So deep in there. And the evidence of that is public knowledge. I don't need to rehash it because it's public knowledge that the Premier's office of Northwest, notwithstanding clear prescripts of law in the Northwest Act governing traditional affairs and cooperative governance, the Northwest Act on Kgosi, is very clear about the Premier's oversight duties, what the Premier ought to do for the community. But we have a history, since I've been in South Africa 13 years, we have a history of the Premier's office deliberately withholding the performance of statutory duties, to a point where even Balway Commission highlighted that fact, that the Premier's office is refusing to perform their duties in regard to Bakata. Instead, they do the opposite in order to favor John Molefe Pilane. Against the law, absolute corruption, which is so blatant and frightening to the extent to which it is being allowed to carry on in South Africa. The Premier's office, as far as we are concerned, has violated every piece of legislation. Last year, I filed a mandamus against the Premier and various parties to compel them to obey the law, to compel them to empower the administrator. And we gave them all the time to file any opposition which they may seek to file, and we had a date allocated to us by the Registrar of Mafikeng High Court being a date in September 2024. We waited 6 months for that date to arrive. And a week before the date of hearing of our case, a senior judge, again at Mafikeng High Court, decides to intervene in favor of John Molefe Pilane and the mafia in the Premier's office. By a stroke of the pen, the senior judge just vacated all those dates and said that in that week when our case was supposed to be heard, our mandamus, no cases would be heard on that week. So our mandamus fell off the roll, and it fell off the pipe of hearing. To this date, our mandamus is in the air because a senior judge of Mafikeng High Court, acting in favor of John Molefe Pilane and the Premier's office, decided that he is cancelling the hearing of our date. So unprocedurally, and Bakata, we were hurt, we're still hurt today, seeing how these things connect together. So the front pocket coordinates with the Senana pocket to achieve grave injustice for Bakatla. Apart from the Premier's office refusing altogether to perform their duties under the Act, this is another thing that happened. In 2016, legislation was passed by the then Premier of Northwest, Dean Supra Mahuma Pelo. It's a proclamation which set up the Maluleka Commission. It's called subsidiary legislation, and it's as valid as any other legislation. That legislation still stands. It has not been set aside, the legislation itself. That legislation mandated, directed the Premier of Northwest to find out where Bakata money is going to, the flow of Bakata money. Where is these millions and billions of Bakata money going to, really? Legislation mandated the Premier to do that. But today, the Premier cannot tell you where Bakata money is going to. Instead, the Premier of Northwest has deliberately violated that legislation and deliberately violated all efforts by us Bakatla, all efforts by all other premiers to find out exactly where Bakatla money is going to. And as I've said all along, it's going in between these mafia groups. It's going into ANC pockets. And the reason why the Northwest government, or what you call government, has deliberately frustrated the administrator and deliberately frustrated the forensic investigation is because they want to block the truth coming out that Bakata money is going to ANC pockets. The ANC organization itself and the individual members. So the Premier's office and Kokta are in the right pocket of John Molefe Pilane, standing tall on stilts, and they are deep in his pocket. He controls them. You see them in the photographs, mulling around him as if he's a king, licking his boots. Even the soldiers do that so shamefully. The police do that so shamefully. They parade him at Muruling Stadium as if he's a king. When they are possessed of docket after docket, complaint after complaint about this man's criminality. So they are in his right pocket, his front pocket. It has to be the right front pocket because it's the closest to the Senana pocket. Then the left front pocket is what I call Kgolo mafia. That is ANC of Northwest. The Central Committee of ANC Northwest under Nono Maloi are in John Pilane's left pocket. Bakata know the association of Nono Maloi with John Pilane. Nono Maloi, an uneducated man, controls Northwest. What kind of people have we become, the people of Northwest, to be ruled by an uneducated, corrupt man? When we have professors, doctors, Kgosi, lawyers around us, and we end up being ruled by an uneducated, corrupt man as Nono Maloi. We know what he's doing at PPM with Nyara Pilane. We know what he's been trying to do or doing with the Pilanesberg Airport. If you think, Nono Maloi, that the things you do in the dark with John Pilane, you are not being seen, I can assure you, sir, that we see you and we are going to get you soonest. Yes, the whole Northwest ANC is corrupt, it's very destructive, and shouldn't be in power at all in Northwest, other than by the betrayal of the people of Northwest who keep voting for these vermins, to keep destroying Bakatla, and to keep destroying other tribal communities of Northwest. But I'll get to that later, about the voters of Northwest. So this is what is in John Pilane's left pocket, the ANC of Northwest. And if you have any doubt, just look at the photographs, the pictures that are all over social media, and ask yourself, what are those ANC people doing with John Pilane when he's not a Kgosi? When there are judgments after judgments of court emphasizing the very same point that he's not a Kgosi of Bakatla. And when at the time when they are with him, there has always been a sitting Kgosi recognized in terms of government laws, who then was Kgosi Ramono. The ANC recognized John Pilane as Kgosi, when the government this side has recognized Ramono as the Kgosi. What a travesty of justice and of us human values. But they do it blatantly because they say they are untouchable. At the left back pocket of John Pilane's long trousers is the Tulia House mafia. Who controls the Tulia House administratively is the Secretary General, Fikile Mbalule, and others. But I'll speak about Fikile Mbalule because he's in the public domain. On the 20th of April last year, Fikile Mbalule, on behalf of the ANC, he organizes a political rally at Muruleng Stadium. I wrote to him a letter before that rally. The letter went viral. And in that letter, I warned Fikile Mbalule, firstly, not to hold that rally in our stadium because he doesn't have our permission. He doesn't have the administrator's permission because the administrator's term was still extant then. So I wrote to Fikile and asked him not to do that. But if he insists on doing that, then he must pay Bakatla for use of that stadium, and he must pay the administrator. But what did Fikile do? On that very day when they held the rally, Fikile mobilizes Kgolo Mafia and the Premier's office to cancel the administrator's contract. Yes, they wrote to the administrator on Saturday to say that his term is finished. They were emboldened in their arrogance to terminate the administrator's contract on that day because they were angered by our letter. That's what he did, Fikile. On that very day, 20th of April 2024, will be a day that's going to haunt you, Fikile, for the rest of your life. And in that rally, which was against the law, in the sense that there's legislation, which says that no tribal money or tribal assets may be used to advance the interest of any political party. It's written black and white in legislation. But the African national corruption violates every legislation with impunity. And Fikile Mbalule is a clear representation of that state of affairs. So he violates legislation and carries on with that rally. And in that rally, Fikile Mbalule insults us Bakatla. He insults the Bakatla tribe, and he insults the Bakatla royal family, and he insults even me too. He declares in public that John Molefe Pilane is the Kgosi of Bakatla, when at that time there was an officially recognized Kgosi of Bakatla being my uncle Ramondo Pilanesberg. And where at that time there was a lawfully recognized king, Kgolo of Bakatla, being myself. But he ignores all that. He ignores Bakatla custom. He ignores all of that in order to give John Molefe Pilane full support of the African national corruption. Fikile, you disrespectful man. He's very disrespectful. And his time is very limited in politics. Fikile Mbalule, as far as we are concerned, Bakatla, is an accessory to all the crimes that John Pilane has committed against Bakatla. Fikile Mbalule and his colleagues at Lituli House are accessories to all the crimes that John Molefe Pilane has committed against Bakatla. And we will get you, we will get them in due course of time after we get John Molefe Pilane and Kgolo Pilane. We are going to arrest John Molefe Pilane and Kgolo Pilane for all the crimes that they have committed against Bakatla, including, we speak about commercial crimes which are documented, and I don't see them having any defense to that prosecution, including, where appropriate, arrest and prosecution for murder. There are rumors in Bakatla villages, rumors which are gaining credibility momentum every day, that John Pilane and Kgolo Pilane are implicated in the murder of Jomo Irumi. I say it's rumor yet, but it's rumor that is gaining credibility momentum for the following reason, that there are eyewitnesses to the murder of Jomo Irumi. Jomo's wife saw the assassins with her eyes. Jomo's mother was there. There were children in the yard. These assassins just walked in. They did not attempt to even cover their identities with balaclava or whatever. They simply walked in Jomo's yard, asked to see Jomo, and they shot him. They emptied the gun magazine on that poor man. We understand it's 15 rounds. Imagine somebody's wife listening to that. Bang, 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 bang. 15 to 18 rounds. They emptied it into Jomo's body. And imagine this also, how cruel how cruel law enforcement of South Africa can be. Mohase police, which is not far from Sifikile, they took 4 hours to arrive at the murder scene. 4 hours, when it takes 30 minutes to drive from Kgose to Sfikile. They took 4 hours. Imagine what that poor family goes through, waiting for the police to arrive at the scene. Jomo's body lying there, blood flowing, children screaming out there. After they arrive at the scene, they have taken Jomo's wife's telephone numbers, and many of you have seen the videos concerning Jomo's wife, Jomo's brother, and Jomo's uncle, that the police have never bothered to follow up on the investigation to this very day. 2 years. The investigation has stalled when there are eyewitnesses who saw the assassins, eyewitnesses who saw the driver, and eyewitnesses who know where these people work. They move in and out of the tribal office in Murule, where their bosses are. So I ask you, Mokhatla, yet again, to connect the dots. Why would a murder which has eyewitnesses not conclude investigation and start a prosecution? There's only one sensible reason, is that when you arrest the assassins, you then end up arresting the paymaster. And the paymaster, according to rumor, is John Molefe Pilane and Kgolo Pilane. As I say, it's still rumor, but this rumor is gaining credibility, momentum. Each day, the arrest is not taking place. Each day, the prosecution is not taking place. And imagine the victims of crime, what they have to go through. Jomo's family, the villagers of Sfikile, seeing the assassins walk about untouched, seeing the paymaster being surrounded by the African national corruption, giving them power, giving them an image that they are untouchable. Is this the South Africa that we have turned into, fellow South Africans? Where even the most sacred right under the Constitution, being the right to life, has no protection anymore under ANC rule? You tell me. So we have found help. As I've always said in my presentation, that we Bakatla are going to help ourselves out of this siege. We have accepted the reality that there's no government in Northwest. So we're going to help ourselves in the best way we can. And as I've said to you, we will push and push and push to get these prosecutions started, either prosecutions by state or prosecutions by private prosecution. We are in the verge of signing an agreement with an organization that's going to help us, Bakatla, with these prosecutions and with other matters of mutual cultural interest. And when we sign that agreement, it will be public here in Cape Town. It will be a big celebration when this agreement is signed. They're going to help us seek and achieve justice for the murder of Jomo Kerume. They're going to help us to seek justice for the commercial crimes that are committed against Bakatla. Adding to that, to Jomo's murder, there's also rumor that he, John Pilane, also murdered Kgolo Molefe on the same day, 15th of August, 1996. He is rumored to be murdering people working in office of Kgosi. Jomo Kerume was our colleague. He was my colleague. He was Kgosi Ramono's colleague. A very, very active man. Kgolo Molefe was John Pilane's colleague. He was his deputy. It's rumored that he, John Molefe Pilane Nyalala, murdered Kgolo Molefe. And the crowd that's around him at the travel office always reminded us, when I was still operating from that office in 2012, they always reminded us to remember that somebody was murdered in that office, cautioning us that the more we push John Pilane to account, is the more that we must be reminded that somebody died. Yes, we've heard it with our own ears. My sister has heard it, I've also heard it in my own ears. They threatening us that we must be cautious when we press John Molefe Pilane to account, because Kgolo Molefe was murdered, pressing for the same thing. So Kgolo's family too, we're going to get justice for Kgolo's family. If it is true that you, John Molefe Pilane, Nyalala, you murdered Kgolo and you murdered Jomo Kirumeng, if it is true, we're going to get justice against you. You will certainly stand trial for murder. Because no one in the Republic of South Africa must get away with murder. The commercial crimes, surely you will stand trial for them soonest, whether it's by state or it is by our private prosecution. That I assure you, Nyalala, le Kgaiso. So, this is what we have. People in the pockets of this man standing tall on stilts. The back pocket in the right, the back right pocket is law enforcement. Yes, John Pilane has got the entire law enforcement of Northwest and maybe also nationally in his back pocket. Totally. Ask yourself, why is it that when we have clear-cut, undisputable forensic evidence of a man committing crimes in the worthy of billions, year after year, and he's not being arrested and no prosecutions are taking place despite docket after docket being opened? What we have experienced since 2012 is a very, very tragic development whereby Hawks officers who investigate John Pilane and NPA officials who are supposed to prosecute him, they change hands. You have this one today, then you have that one tomorrow. It's been going on for 13 years. I think NPA officers who've handled John Pilane's cases, they must exceed maybe 6 or 10. Hawks officers who have exchanged hands with John Pilane's case must exceed 6 or 10. There are many of them, even as recent as now, we have a new team handling the investigation who promise that they will start the prosecution, but it's the same old promises that we've been hearing. Why is that so? It is so because they are in his right back pocket. And they are there in his right back pocket with the effect that the left back pocket, being African national corruption, the Thule House mafia, control law enforcement. They are the ones who hire them anyway, and they are the ones who move them about. So you have this right round scenario that I've given you of a man standing tall, appearing to be a giant, where underneath is just stilts. And in his 5 pockets, he has the entire government structure of Northwest and South Africa in corruption, frozen in corruption. If any one of you thought that the state capture report is frightening in terms of state capture and the amount of money that has been stolen, billions and billions by the Guptas, you know nothing, you ain't seen nothing. Bakata money is the one that funds ANC. Bakata money that has been stolen, who is unable to be traced because the Premier of Northwest, despite his duty to trace it, refused to trace it. Bakata money exceeds all that you have seen at state capture. Bakata money is what finances the ANC. Bakata money is what finances all your misery in South Africa. And to the extent to which your mainstream media and other organizations refuse to cast our eye on this tragedy upon a community, Your mainstream media says there's better news to focus on. To the extent to which you do that, you commit a grave injustice upon yourselves as South Africans. Because here is where your problem resides. And here is where your solution resides. We, Bakatla, we have solutions. As we've always said, we will do the necessary last forensic, mop-up forensic, as I call it. And once you are finished with this mop-up forensic, we put all the forensic reports together and we issue a summons against the government of the Republic of South Africa, backed up by forensic expert, backed up by actuary expert, backed up by all other experts. A summons that is indefensible. A summons in the region of 100 to 200 billion of damages being claimed against the government. And we'll take our time with that civil suit. We'll go to the High Court, and we'll go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and we will go to the Constitutional Court, and ultimately, we will execute our civil judgment sounding in money against the government of the Republic of South Africa that will be existing at that time when we execute. And it's then that you will feel the pinch, because it's the taxpayer who will be paying. So we have a solution, and we are on course with it. Whether or not anybody supports us, whether or not anybody focuses their attention on our plight. But what I can assure you, fellow South Africans, is that the poor of this country will not take this rigmarole, this injustice any longer. I've said it before, and I've been saying it in all my speeches since I came to this country, that a moment is coming to this country where the poor are going to revolt. And it's going to be a very dark moment. They say the darkest hour is the hour before the light in the morning. We do have a renaissance shining in front of us South Africans. This country will shine ultimately. But before that shine, that dawn comes in, there's going to be a very dark moment where the poor of this country revolt. It has begun, and it's going to be horrible. Worse than Rwanda 94, worse than Nazi Germany. And I say this in my books, In the Last Frontier, published 4 years ago. It's not something new that I'm saying. You're going to face a very, very horrible moment creeping upon South Africans quite fast. And this moment is a moment of karma. It's true karma. Because the living earth looks at the black people of South Africa, and it reminds them that the black people of South Africa had an opportunity to reverse the injustice of our apartheid and to carve a future for the black people of South Africa in line with the Freedom Charter. But they have failed. You, the black people of South Africa, you have failed. You have failed by insisting on delusions. Delusions that say that a hyena will someday change to become a German Shepherd dog. You see clearly that the ANC is destroying you, is destroying this country, but you keep voting for them again and again and again. Last year elections, when they took place, the writing was on the wall for all of us. We had the state capture report, we have all other commission reports, we had the reports from the Auditor General concerning the status of municipalities, how the ANC is ripping us apart. But some of you went to vote for them, whilst others decided that they're not voting at all because the beloved they've been voting has disappointed them. Therefore, they won't take any action to remove that beloved from the face of this earth. And thus, we have created the very situation where we have today, where the ANC, African National Corruption, not deserving to be in government, are still in government controlling the presidency, vice presidency, Minister of Mineral Resources, all the areas which are used as a platform to oppress us, Bakatla. So we have a solution. God has given us a solution. But you, the black people of South Africa, are going to kill each other as part of your karma, as the dark hour before the dawn. And you will hack each other with axes as those in Rwanda hacked each other with machetes. We Bakata will protect ourselves in our villages in South Africa. We Bakata will relocate our women and children to our brothers in Muchudi, which is our other home, so that our women are not raped, our children are not raped and killed by this horde that's going to move in the next few months as a result of your actions of refusing to remove the monster that is destroying us, Bakatla. So this is what's going to happen. The only thing that can stop the worst nightmare that's coming to you South Africans is if the military veterans of this country can wake up out of their cowardice and go remove those vermins from government. Whatever you call it, a coup or whatever, it doesn't really matter to us. Because we struggle alone to solve our problems. And therefore we shall emerge alone with those who we shall form treaties with, treaties which we will announce quite soon. We will emerge out of this dark moment to be the rulers, the leaders of the new age, which we teach about time and again in every opportunity. Yes, we, Bakata, will emerge out of all this because we do have resilience. We have a history of resilience. We have stood and survived Paul Kruger. We have stood and survived Tirimani. We have stood and survived the British colonists. We have stood and survived everything, and we shall stand and survive Nyala Pilane and the ANC. We shall stand and survive the revolution that is coming. We, Bakata Kgafela. So, brothers and sisters, Bokabu, I say to you, be patient and be strong and don't be afraid of anything. A man who stands on stilts, portraying the image of a giant, is nothing. Is nothing. You strike those stilts with a stick and he comes crumbling down to the very ground that he should be at. And this is what we are doing. We are simply going to strike those stilts down. And this appearance of a giant is going to come crumbling down. Soonest, I shall be here every month updating you of where we stand until the day we find ourselves in the courtroom when these trials begin. I end my speech of today on that note, and I'll hand you over to Master Alan Few, who will explain to you what's going on in your farms, in your land, so that it is real to you. It's not just something that is being spoken about in euphemism or in abstract. When you hear it from him and see the maps that he's going to produce, and this is just one of them that is behind us, then you feel that this is real. It's not abstract. You are the owners of the biggest wealth in Southern Africa, Bakatla. You are the richest poor man in the world. Listen to it. The richest poor man in the world is you, Bakatla. And that has to end. That has to end. And we are on course to ending it with the patience, tenacity, and resilience that we exercise. So Master Alan Few will give you a briefing today, which is the beginning of many briefings that he's going to give you sustained. In the end, at the end of June, all that you see behind me in his files, he's got files and files and files and files. Our instructions to him is to share everything that he has in these files with you and with the team of forensic investigators and prosecutors who are going to be in charge of bringing justice to Kgafela, either by private prosecution or by prosecution by state. Until we meet again, brothers, next month, God be with you. Siribelo.
Good day, the Kgafela Nation and the whole of South Africa. Just to enlighten and bring you up to speed, AL Forensics, which is the forensic company I work for, has been doing forensic investigations since 2018. We were mandated in the beginning by the CPA to help them with their land claims and certain other forensic investigations that had to be done. Firstly, I would like to say that we went back to the 1800s to establish what properties were the Kgafela properties in the 1800s. We have got documentation from the government, which were the land claims that were handed in. We got documents from the Cape Town University of Cape Town Library before it burnt down. We've got government gazette copies from 1953, where land was proclaimed as being the Kgafela land and everything. We then went along and we got map sets that we put out and put together. This one behind me here is the Surveyor General map. It is only of the Pilanesberg. The Kgafela land extends vastly beyond this area behind me here. All the 32 villages, just to give you an example, there are 4 villages on a farm called Salzpoort. Okay? And just to help you with that, Salzpoort sits up the top here. The farm Salzpoort. It is held under title deed where it says the DMMR is the owner of that farm held in trust for the Kgafela. The Kgafela Nation does not have their title deed in the name of the Kgafela people. This is the list that I have, that I have compiled for the Annexure E of the Constitution of the CPA, with all the villages' names, all 32 villages, and on which farms they fall under. Most of these farms, the majority of the farms, are under the name of the South African government, under the name of the Republic of Botswana, and things like that. The nation still does not have their title deeds that says on the title deed the owner of that farm is the Kgafela Nation, being the tribe, the CPA, or however they would like to do it. Just to start off, we started off with the Pilanesberg. This is the map behind me, and we focused specifically on the Pilanesberg, and we started getting title deeds. Now, on the map, you can see all the farms. The Pilanesberg is made up of 31 farms, with a whole lot of portions on each farm. Now, all the ones in yellow here are the ones that we have received the title deeds for already, in the name of the Kgafela CPA. The ones in red on the map behind me here are the ones that I have documentation for, documentary proof, that the government has said in a document which looks like this. It looks like this. They have said that your land claim has been approved. The Kgafela community's land claim has been approved, and that the title deed will be given to the community. All right? Now, those are all the ones in red. And what makes it very strange, which we find very strange, is this one here is for a farm called Doringhoek. I'm going to read off the document for you. It is for a farm. It's for the portion 0, portion 1, portion 2, portion 3 of the farm Doringhoek, 19 JQ. And this was signed by the then minister who was in charge of all this, in 2020 already, the minister who is now the Speaker of Parliament was the minister in this department. It was signed in 2020 already, but the tribe does not have their title deed yet. And the main thing that we found here is all these portions and farms that have not been transferred yet, the ones in red behind me here, that have been signed. I've got a document like this for each one of them, where they say, this farm, this portion is going to be transferred to you. All of them where there are lodges on. And this farm in particular is where Sun City is sitting. So this title deed has not been given to the Kgafela nation yet. And they are losing out on income. The whole lease agreement is in this file in front of me here. All that the Kgafela nation has to go do, they do not want to cancel a lease with Sun International. They want to go verify the lease agreement so that the rental for that land is paid to the Kgafela nation. That's all they want to do. So that they get income from all these lodges in the Pilanesberg, where the land will be theirs. And at this moment, we cannot go, and I mean, we are talking about here, Sun International is one of the farms that is promised. Kwamaritani is sitting here. It's one of the farms that is promised. Up the top there is the Kgafela Gate and Ivory Tree, one of the farms that has been promised. We've got documentation from the government to say these properties are promised. You can see here in the middle here, you will see that these were promised. We do have title deeds for them now. The Kgafela nation has title deeds for them now. But what is very strange is the government gives them a letter to say they can have this farm. Buffelshoek was one of their original farms. They've given the title deed, but they've left 5 portions off. So we don't know who these 5 portions are now going to go belong to. It's supposed to belong to the Kgafela nation. Now, the one thing that we must understand is that we have done the forensic investigation for all the farms outside the Pilanesberg, and it's a huge area where the farms, going back to the 1800s, these were the farms of the Kgafela nation. And not one of them has been handed over to the tribal authority or any Kgafela structure until today. Not one of them. It's only these farms in the Pilanesberg we've got the title deeds for. Our friend John Molefe Palani started way back when, and the king alluded to it, about the fraud case that was done with the land bank. Now, the farms that were bought there were bought under company names. Okay? They were under Winterveld Beleggings, Elsu Beleggings, Toegekry Landgoed, and Connolly. Those companies, PTY Limiteds, owned land. That was the only asset in the company. Now, this is where John Palani started. He is the only director on all these companies. He is the only director. Not the tribe or anything. He is the director. And the last paperwork on these farms that we pulled shows that the CIPC, the intellectual property company in South Africa, has deregistered these companies because they have not done the paperwork. There was another farm bought under PTY Limited called Kgafela Tribal Investments, PTY Limited, where John Molefe Palani is the only director of that company as well. It also owns a farm. That's its only asset of this company. Owns a farm. It has been deregistered, the company. So these things, if what is correct, if the government deregisters a company, its assets revert back to the government. So the chances of the tribe, and these farms were bought with tribe money, not any individual's money, they were bought with the money of the tribe. And now they're going to revert back to the government if it's not done properly. John Palani went one step further. He went one step further. In 2013, he decided he wasn't going to use PTY Limited companies anymore to hide his shenanigans away. He started trusts. This whole file is full of trust documents. Now, he bought a farm called Vogelstruisdraai under a trust called the Kgafela Land Trust in 2013. Portion 1 of Vogelstruisdrive. This one I do not have such a big problem with because he is the trustee of this trust, and the Kgafela as a nation are the beneficiaries. The community of the Kgafela are the beneficiaries of this trust. He then went, at the same time that he was doing that, he went and bought another farm. The Irregularities farm, which is close to Northern, in which funds were used out of an entity called Lekshelf 703 Pty Limited that was used to pay for a portion of this farm. This farm was bought under a trust called NMJ Trust. But what is concerning about this trust is that John Molefe Polani is the trustee, the spouse of Molefe John Polani, the lawful descendants of Molefe John Polani, and any trust established for the benefit of any beneficiaries forementioned here are the beneficiaries of this farm. It was paid for out of the money of the community. I have records where certain things were bought onto that farm, and that was also paid for out of the funds of the community. This is now his personal farm that was paid for by the community. We have, in the 1953 Government Gazette, we have certain farms that were registered as Kgafela land, solely Kgafela land. And just one more thing, I must go back. Some of these promised portions of farms and farms here behind me, they were already promised with documents to the Kgafela nation in 2006. So we got documents proving that the government said in 2006, these are your farms, but they still don't have title deeds. In 2008, they sent out letters. These are your farms, they still don't have title deeds. In 2010, they sent out letters. These are your farms, you still don't have title deeds for them. In 2020, another one. These are your farms, they still don't have title deeds. Then you've got a little thing called Sianda Kgafela Platinum Mine. In the beginning, yeah, in the early 2000s, the Kgafela community got 15% shareholding in this mine because the land that they were mining on belonged to the Kgafela. We went and checked the other day. Some of the portions of those farms that belong to Kgafela are now in the name of this mining house. I don't know how they got it right to get that land away from the Kgafela and into the name of a Pty Limited, where Kgosi, amongst others, is sitting as a director of that company. The dividends that get paid out to that mine get paid out to a Kgafela company where Kgosi and John Polani are both directors of that company. We also did the PPM mine. This is a very nice one. There were lease agreements signed for the Kgafela land on that. I had a meeting with the CEO, the then CEO of PPM, Mr. Eric Clark, and I brought these lease agreements to his attention. He admitted to me in a meeting that he had never paid 1 cent on any of those lease agreements to the Kgafela nation. And he had no intentions of paying them either, because the properties outside the Pilanesberg and everywhere else are still in the name of the South African government, the Republic of Botswana. One thing we did pick up, I've got files and files full of deed searches. On the deeds, way back in the 1900s, when the old South African government took their properties, took control over these properties from the Kgafela nation. These are farms that the Kgafela, the chiefs, the king's forebearers, went and bought. And I've got original title deeds in my files where the community actually contributed money to buy a farm for £800, where they've actually, on the original title deed, they've got the community, 52 members of the community that donated money to be able to buy that farm, being £10 and 20 pences and things like that. I've got those things. Now, all of a sudden, these properties are starting to become private companies, properties. I don't know how they got a right to sell it, because these properties were supposed to be held in trust for the nation, for the Kgafela nation, but they're all of a sudden going to other people. The two farms that are involved in that first mine is Swartklip 405 KQ and Nooit Gedacht 406 KQ. And there's a total of 6 portions that are now in the names of this private company. The Kgafela purchased these farms in 1929 already. And the one thing that we did pick up is, on some of the farms that are now under the name of the Republic of Botswana and the South African government, they never changed the title deed numbers. So you still have a title deed number that is dated in 1936 and 1930 and things like that. They just didn't do that work. Just to note that John Molefe Polani, through an attorney, did submit a land claim before the cutoff date, the December 1998. Julius Molotti attorneys in Rustenburg. I've been to see the man. At some stage or another, John Molefe Polani sent a woman to his office and she collected a whole lot of files and she has never returned them. And he can't give me a list. The government is unable or unwilling to give me a complete list of all the farms that have been claimed. One other thing that we did pick up, in 1981 and 82, the land surveyor went out and he cut off certain portions of certain farms that went into the Pilanesberg. And when we went and checked at the deeds office, those portions of those farms have never been registered at the deeds office. So if you put in that farm number and that portion number to find who the owner of the farm is or that portion is, it comes up with no information available. Now, I don't know why the government is not fixing this, if they're doing it on purpose to deprive the Kgafela community of the rightful income that they could be deriving from these, especially inside the Pilanesberg, on tourism and things like that. Because the farms are not in their name. They cannot go and change the lease agreements because Sun International, that farm is still in the name of the South African government. That's who the owner of the title deed is. And under the King's guidance and instruction, we will give you further updates from our forensic investigations as we are going forward. Because we have done a lot of investigations and we know where a lot of the funds went and how they were distributed, and also farms that there was a farm that was actually in the tribe's name out there near Dwaalboom that was sold to a white farmer by John Molefe Polani. The government has now gone and bought that farm back, and it's Kgafela land back to the 1800s. And that would be all that I have to say for you at this moment. I will give you further updates as they come, if and when we are requested to do them, just so that you people know. Thank you very much for your time.